Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're looking forward to doing the whole month of March. March is going to be one of those months that's going to be almost like the beginning of a renaissance. And as we have done in all months before, we're going to talk about our word. And we're going to start with you, Tanya. What's your word for this upcoming month?
Oh my goodness. Well, guys, I chose the word dynamic. I mean, this month is just so energetic and spirited and active and lively. It feels like we're on a train barreling down the tracks now, with all of the planets moving forward, and Jupiter is moving as fast as it can, and Mars is out of its shadow retrograde in a quick moving sign, and we have a slew of planets in Aries, which is known for being dynamic. And I mean, I'm just hitting the tip of the iceberg here. So it just feels like this big dynamic chugga choo choo, here we go kind of month.
Excellent. Yes, dynamic is definitely a great word. How about you, Susan? What's your word?
My word for March is excitement. We have 5 planets changing sign this month. Mercury is doing it twice, which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really the most exciting month of the year. We could talk about it for much longer than what we're going to be doing today. We could spend a long time talking about what's happening in March. So I think it's just, like she said, full steam ahead.
Cool. What about you, Tracy? What's your word, or words by the sound of things?
Yeah, momentum, upgrade. It is such a dynamic month, and it's not like we just start new and we're getting our feet under us. It's like we are hitting the ground running, and we are making changes as we go, and we're improving as we're making those changes. And it's really, really, it's a nice flow. It's a nice energy. It's very exciting. It's exciting and dynamic.
And so my word I'm choosing is seeding, seeding. So for our gardener people out there, you get your ground all ready, and then you put your seeds in, which I think is going to be very much so this month on many levels. But one of the big levels, and I'll be talking about it at the ending part of the video, is the seeding that we're going to see happen with Pluto this month. Pluto's not gone into Aquarius since 1776. This is brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard for the ride. Let's go. And so, as we begin this month, we're going to start with Tracy in a second, but one of the big things is seeing it all on one particular side. And for those of you who have your own charts, you're going to want to look to see where your whole side goes from Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini. And we're going to actually pass this part of the month directly over to Tracy. There you go, Tracy.
Okay, well, my week, I think all 4 of us will think that we have the best weeks just because there's so many, exciting things happening. But I get to start the very first day of the month with the best thing, okay? And that is Venus and Jupiter coming together, okay? This is really exciting. Venus and Jupiter conjunct in Aries. This is a very go big or go home kind of energy. It's a bit indulgent, but it's fun. It's fun. It's not just confidence, but it's like brazen confidence. It's kind of like YOLO type energy. So Aries babies that are having their solar returns, you know, Aries born like April 1st through the 3rd are really going to enjoy this with their solar return. And even Cancer risings will have a really nice, you know, this will be up in their 10th house, and this will be a very nice aspect for, you know, some work opportunities, you know, some bravery and confidence boosting at work. I just think it's lovely. But the moon, what's going on during this day is the moon is trining the sun. Okay, so it's building up in light and building up in energy, getting ready for the full moon. So it's just full of confidence. We have the water sun and the water moon, and this is really about, you know, creation and birthing and dreams and nurturing those dreams and needs. And it's just, I don't know, it's just such a great day. Even though the moon is squaring this Jupiter, Venus, and, you know, this big, big energy, you know, the moon can be a little bit emotional, like, I don't know if I'm ready to do all that, you know, that might be a lot, but it's like, just do it, you know, just jump in, just, you know, full yo, I can't even say it, YOLO. Okay, and then the next day, the moon moves into a nice supporting trine to, well, it will sextile Uranus, which is really nice in the morning, and then later in the afternoon, Mercury will conjunct Saturn. So again, another really big day. I think the moon here is really supporting, you know, Uranus and Saturn have been doing this square for the last year, where they're really strongly, you know, who's going forward and who's going back, and who's, you know, like really shaking up some of our fixed ideas. And both Uranus and Saturn are associated with the sign Aquarius. So both of them have been, you know, having their own say here. And the moon is supporting Uranus in the futuristic, while Mercury and Saturn get together. And this is a really big mental energy. Mercury is all about the mind, and Saturn is all about structure. And Aquarius is fixed air. It's a fixed mindset. Okay. And this is like peak goal planning energy, peak future goal planning. So if you need to write something down, if you need to brain dump ideas, you know, if you need to, I don't know, make some rules for life, or, you know, write down the important things, like now is the time. You might even expect, I don't know, some pinpoint clarity coming from, you know, Saturn type figures, maybe authority figures, bosses, things like that. It might just be, like I said, crystalline clarity, because the next day, or later in the day, I guess, Mercury is going to be going into Pisces, and that's it. We like lost our marbles. Okay. Mercury in Aquarius is really, really great for intelligence, but when Mercury goes into Pisces, it's all intuition. There is, you know, we kind of lose, we change our senses. Okay. We go from very intellectual, logical, kind of train of thought to just imaginative and dreamy and fantasy. So if you need to write something down, do it earlier in the day. So yeah, just totally trading the intellect for tuition. Mercury does very, very well in Aquarius and does very, very poorly in Pisces. Okay. They express through creativity. It's a very dreamy mind. It is not rational. So, but it's only here for 2 weeks. So enjoy the imagination, enjoy, you know, the creative potential. And then later in that day, the moon is going to be trining Neptune, and it can almost feel a little bit like propaganda, like what is real? You know, we just had this moment of clarity, and then we went into Pisces and this moment of confusion, and then now our emotions are even more confused. Is it real? Like, what else is there? So this is totally, it goes completely to, let's make some realistic goals, to, all right, now I'm in dream world. Crazy day. And then going into the weekend, Friday and Saturday, we have the moon is going to oppose Pluto. And it's really going to be highlighting this really loud Pluto theme. You know, Pluto's on that 29th degree. And every time the moon is kind of hitting off this point, we get a lot of themes about like corruption and power dynamics, you know, vulnerability, lies. We hear a lot from the government coming out during those days. So these Leo moon folks have had a really hard time between Pluto and Saturn for the last couple of months. Instead of like, Leo moon is really like, look at me. But with this kind of energy, it's been more like, well, this is me. It's kind of a little bit like humility, with these kind of moons. But I'll tell you, it's our last opposition with Pluto. I promise. And also on this day, Venus is going to conjunct Chiron. So there's a really nice opportunity here for like healing opportunity about like directiveness, being direct, being assertive, going after what Venus wants in a very masculine kind of way, very, straightforward. And with that fire moon trining it, like it still is a real brave and gutsy thing. Like it's a really, mood like that. But, with Chiron there, it might hurt. It might hurt to get this one started. But, Venus is heading towards Taurus. So she's got to go, how do you say, you got to risk it for the reward, kind of. And then with the, like I said, with the moon trining all of that by the end of the day, it's like, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway. So it's really nice confidence there. And then going into Saturday, the moon is going to square Uranus. And you might have just shocked yourself with your capability of what you did the day before. You might have screwed up a little bit, but you could take a joke, you can roll along with it. It's not that big of a deal. And then by Sunday, the moon is going to sextile Mars. And that's, another kind of confidence. It's like a confidence and a connection with the things that we already know how to do. So maybe we're putting it all together. We tried the brave thing, shocked us, and oh no, I know how to do this. I could do that. And also on that day, the moon is going to be opposing Saturn. And this is, again, one of our very last oppositions at this really strong degree. And this is kind of where we can meet resistance and like the authority figure and a little bit of the buzzkill. There's a little bit of like a reality check to the opposition of Saturn. We can't please everybody. And it can also be kind of like a self-critical kind of moon, but last one, I promise. And then the moon will move into Virgo and start our new moon process going into Monday. Monday, the moon will hit off Uranus again. The sun will sextile Uranus. So it's like the moon already talked to Uranus, and now the sun is talking to Uranus, and it's like, are you ready? We're ready. We're ready to start something new. Are you ready? Let's get it over with. And it's time to like be okay with that change. Okay, and then the moon will oppose Mercury before it goes full. And Mercury is in Pisces. Mercury is, the flowy kind of mindset. So it's really like, it's time to reflect on your mind. Are you still trying to control your brain? Like, are you still kind of in that Aquarius mindset? Because this is really like, you need to embrace the flow by now. Okay, this is this full moon coming in that says, let it go, release it. It's going to be fine. Dream about it.
And sometimes that moon in Virgo can sometimes be a bit of a criticizing moon,
Yes.
right?
Yes. But we're in mutable energy. Like we have to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on Tuesday, the full moon that goes full completely. First, the moon is going to trine Uranus. I already said that, Sunday morning. And then, the full moon is, right, am I on the right day? On Tuesday, I'm sorry. It's in the early morning, and this full moon is really related to the new moon that happened back in Virgo season. I think it was either August 27th or August 29th of last year. So you might think back or go back through your picture reel. What were you starting new around that time? These 6-month cycles really, really show themselves. Maybe you had a grand plan. You were doing all the little fine details. And now that we're at the full moon point, you realize I didn't need to be in control of everything. Everything just went and flowed and created itself so perfectly. So,
what else is really interesting? It's the pattern that it brings up. It's almost like if you think about a basket, right? So you've got all these planets on the bottom part of the basket, but that full moon is like the handle of the basket. So would you think that moon says, if you work a little bit harder, you could make it happen? Is that what you would say?
Well, it's definitely a reflective point of how much work you have done. I don't know that you need to work harder. You know, we are in Pisces season, whereas, you know,
Right.
if you want to, even trying to do all the details is still going to be messy. So
Mhm.
maybe reflect on what absolutely needs to be done versus, you know,
Yeah.
what you need to release control of. So just realizing, you know, where you need a little bit more freedom to create and just be messy. It could be a very messy moon. That's fine. And then dun dun dun, today, right after the moon, or right after the full moon, about 45 minutes later, Saturn moves into Pisces. And this is the biggie. This has been hasn't been in Pisces for 30 years. And this is a, you know, it goes completely forward. It doesn't retrograde back. Like, it is in it for the long haul. So Saturn in Pisces, Saturn is all about structure, and Pisces is all about no structure. It's like putting a fence up in the middle of the ocean, you know, like trying to find those boundaries. It doesn't work. Saturn doesn't work in Pisces very well. So it's very poignant that this full moon is like, we are done with Aquarius. We are done with the Saturn-Uranus square, like done with that era of resistance and rebellion. Done fighting between the future and past, constriction, restriction. The stiffness of Saturn is really releasing now, and it's really mutable. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be completely comfortable when we get in there. We might not know what to do with ourselves. You know, we've been so tied up with our rules and our restrictions, and now that we have some sort of freedom, people don't know what to do with themselves. So I really think this is, or I'm embracing this as a personal responsibility, nice Saturn word, for like the freedom of the mind, body, spirit, or the health, you know, mind, body, spirit, spirituality. So I'm keeping it very loosely that kind of way. But if you have any memories back 30 years ago, Saturn was in Pisces during May 1993 to April 96. I don't have really any usable, you know, memories that I can look back on, but I've talked to a lot of people that's when they were getting married, you know, and they were changing the boundaries of their life, or they're having children and changing boundaries. So we had a lot of, you know, music cultural revolution in the 90s. And even if we go back one more cycle in the 60s, same kind of thing. So it's very cultural. I would say, yeah, look back in your highlight reel between 93 and 96. And yeah, it's really hard to envision what the Saturn can look like, because we've had Saturn in Saturn ruled signs for the last 5 years. So we might still feel like we need to control, but you know, I would say if you're going to control something, use this Venus Jupiter energy to just be really enthusiastic about, you know, I'm going to be courageous. I'm going to control my courageous bravery about the Saturn moving into Pisces. So
I think too, with Saturn and Pisces, I think it's going to pull us all into the music industry. You know, if you've ever been in band class growing up, or, you know, decided, oh, I think I like to play piano, or I think I'd like to learn guitar, or I'd like to, I used to write songs years ago, you know, I think we're all going to feel ourselves pulled back to that mindset.
And especially while Mercury is in Pisces too. Right? Yeah, first couple of weeks will be great to lose yourself in music and create through music and harmony and all that. I think it's lovely.
And Pisces is the most intuitive sign in the whole entire zodiac. So for people throughout the years who may have thought, you know, I'd like to do tarot classes, or I'd like to start a business doing tarot, or I'd like to do dream interpretation, or I think this is a lovely, lovely time. When does Saturn come out of Pisces? Do you know that just off the top of your head?
Isn't it, is it 20,
I'm just curious.
26, I believe, February 26.
Okay. So you got time. People got time to haul out their paints and their artistics and their guitars and their singing voices. And maybe that's what we'll do next month. We'll just sing to the spheres. No, not so much.
I saw another astrologer, was watching another astrologer, and he said that he did a lot of research on different events and things that have happened through the years when Saturn was traveling through Pisces. And he
Okay.
said that Disney, the biggest blockbuster Disney movies, have all happened when Saturn was in Pisces, which I thought was fascinating.
Mm-hmm. James Redfield wrote, what did he write? The Celestine Prophecy. He wrote that when Saturn went into Pisces, and that set a lot of Christianity mindset really blew up there, because, you know, he introduced the words of spirituality. He introduced the words of spirit and stuff. And so he got a lot of blowback on that. And from what I also understand is that he has another book ready to come out, which also should upset a little bit of some of the other cultures. Thank you very much. Tracy, anything else you want to add? Or
I was gonna say, I just watched a really good video put out by Cam White, and he did just a whole history lesson of Saturn and Pisces throughout, I don't know, 100 years or so. So if you just want straight up history, that's a really good resource.
That's who I think I believe I was watching. Yeah, was Cam
Yeah.
White. He did a great job.
Yeah, it's good.
great. Thank you. What was your word again, Tracy? What was your word?
Oh, I don't know, momentum, upgrade, all of the good
Oh.
things.
Okay. All right. And so moving our way along, let's now pass it over to Tanya.
Thank you. Well, the moon is going to be a waning gibbous moon now, and Tracy was just talking about how the moon was moving through Virgo. So it's basically shrinking smaller and smaller before our eyes if we were to look at the sky right now, but it is on its way to moving to Libra. And so soon, over the next couple of days, our emotional needs, which is represented by the moon, of course, will become a little less pragmatic and much more harmony focused for the next few days. But right before she moves into Libra, she's going to make this supportive aspect with Pluto, which is sitting in the last degree of Capricorn at 29 degrees. And we talked about this last month a little bit, but I'll mention it again, that this degree is what we call a critical degree. And so there's a lot of pressure building right now around this degree. And for 15 years, while Pluto was in Capricorn, or is in Capricorn, we've been diving deep and undergoing crisis and transforming our relationships with authority, like Tracy was talking about, with parents and bosses, the government. We've been really cutting through layers of crap, basically, to get to the truth about things like, even like the legacy we want to leave. And I think we've collectively been grieving a lot of our history as well, and just really transforming our ambitions and our sense of authority. Well, today anyway, with this sweet flowing aspect, we're invited now to kind of surrender and to create some space in our daily calendar, which is very Virgo, to withdraw a little bit and rest from, slaving away at all of this transformation, and release the chains a little bit, and serve, which is Virgo, serve instead, our inner thoughts and our inner emotions, and just take a break, which is Moon. I mean, we've been working so hard for 15 years, which Virgo and Capricorn know very well. And that, so I think that this is just a really great day to reflect on how far we've come over 15 years. If you like to journal like I do, some writing prompts could be like, for example, something that I've been writing about is how has my view changed in 15 years, and what it means to be powerful and powerless. I've had Pluto going through my 8th house, so power has been a huge theme for me in the last 15 years. Another prompt might be, how is my relationship or views with authority figures or my parents and the government changed over 15 years, or another one that I've been thinking a lot about is how has my role as a parent or authority figure changed in 15 years? For example, I became a single mom 15 years ago, and in those 15 years, my children became teenagers. They left home. My daughter's engaged now, and I had to be both mom and dad to my children. But now I've had to learn over these last several years how to, let go and let them be free. And I think with that Virgo moon, I know, Holly, you were mentioning, like it's an analytical moon, and so I think there's that real possibility that, we might, look on these past 15 years with a more critical eye around this time and around this day. But I definitely, encourage all of us to keep in mind that there's enormous power in surrendering to powerlessness, and just encourage you to look more with your discerning eyes, today, on how we've grown and healed and matured over these 15 years. So by Thursday, March the 9th, that the Libra moon has us feeling much more peaceful. However, if you look, she's sitting opposite in the sky from Jupiter at 13 degrees Aries and Chiron at 14 degrees Aries. And oppositions are all about relationships and polarity and finding balance, or, actively trying to seek a resolution. And so continuing on with the theme of empowerment from yesterday, where can you empower yourself to be more instinctive and act on your beliefs with, your heart, and be braver today, which is all very Aries? Or where can you work with others more harmoniously and perhaps see things from different angles, which is Libra? And you can feel when I say those two things how, opposite and different they are. So we might feel this kind of tug of war manifesting around the days of March 19th or 9th within ourselves, or possibly in a relationship. For example, there might be a conflict between, our need to please others, which is Moon in Libra, and assert what we really want, which could be Jupiter in Aries. And of course, with Chiron involved, we might be dealing with feelings of guilt and shame pulling on us from one direction, while we or another person feels like, maybe we need to be clear-minded about our emotions, which is very Libra moon. And I think the best way to work through an opposition like this one is with empathy and bringing the best of both sides together to meet in the middle, which, Libra moon is going to love, of course. And
Yeah.
Jupiter just wants to be happy ultimately. So, yeah, it's just looking for the compromise and seeing the best of both worlds. And then from March 10th to March 13th, Jupiter will finally meet Chiron in Aries at 14 degrees. And Jupiter and Chiron only meet each other in Aries once every 50 years, I believe, on average. So more likely than not, we've probably started already feeling this transit early in February, when Jupiter first started approaching Chiron at, I'd say, probably around 7 or 8 degrees. Even though Jupiter is moving as fast as it can at the moment, it is a bigger and slower moving planet than, say, a planet, for example, like Mercury. And with a smaller planet like Mercury, we might feel that kind of aspect to Chiron for, fewer days as it's approaching and touching Chiron and then leaving that aspect. But so
It gives for a huge healing opportunity.
Yes, exactly. And I was just about to kind of go there. Like, what does it actually mean when Chiron and Jupiter are, meeting up with one another? Jupiter loves to see the big picture and look for the meaning in life and practice faith. And he's all about growth, while asteroid Chiron is about healing our lifelong wounds. And like I mentioned earlier, Chiron can often be associated with feelings of guilt and shame. So, Chiron is that asteroid that represents within all of us that very, very vulnerable part of ourselves. And now here comes Jupiter, when wants to put a magnifying glass on our Chiron wounds. So, we can really see it for what it is. And like Tracy said, Jupiter likes to kind of blow things up. And so, Jupiter might kind of blow that wound up out of proportion, but it's really that invitation, as you said, Holly, to heal it. And I know that might sound painful for some people, but here's the thing, like Jupiter is a great benefic planet. He's the teacher and the wise sage. So, Jupiter just really wants, to help us and help us find deeper and more prophetic meaning, really, and find a solution and help us see how our wound is really rooted in things like historical and social beliefs, because Jupiter is a very social planet as well. And if you compare that, for example, to like something, planet like Pluto coming along and meeting Chiron, Pluto's going to feel more like cutting that wound like wide open and ripping it apart and taking us from the depths of our soul to transform that Chiron wound. But this isn't like that. Jupiter meeting Chiron, is going to feel more like talking to your favorite grandparent or an elder or a teacher, and leaving that conversation just feeling so much more knowledgeable and wiser. And
Aries too, about being the leader you've actually come to be, like the opportunity that's right there in the front of you.
Exactly. I think it's just going to be this tremendous moment of clarity, both personally and for all of us, as a whole in society. And I think on a mundane level, possibly this transit could be connected to, conflicts around the world. Again, we talked about this last month with Aries being connected to war and being the ruling planet of wars. I think there may possibly be some big news connected to someone who we see as a hero, which Jupiter and Chiron could represent together. Also, the military and policing especially have been really in the news a lot lately. So, and they are also represented by Chiron. So again, we may see some news coming up, connected to these kind of two protective institutions. I think I'm inclined to be bold enough right now to intuitively predict that there could be some big news connected to a world leader, because Jupiter represents the chief, the commander, and Chiron being the wound, and Aries being connected to, the head, the battle, bravery, and courage. I think there's a real possibility that, we could see some news, for example, about a world leader who maybe, for example, is bravely deciding to step down, or God forbid, wounded in some way. And I pray that that's not, going to happen. But overall, I think this can be just such an empowering moment, either socially or on an individual level, where, we're really taking our lives back from some core wound. And it's a wound we've been carrying around for a very, very long time. So moving on to Saturday, March the 11th, this day is just a day full of sweet opportunities, so make the most of them. Thomas Edison famously said that opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. So today there's just this nice flowing energy between Venus and Mars and Uranus and Mars that is going to create lots of opportunities. And but again, it's only, like Edison said, only if we choose to accept them. Venus wants to gift joy and peace, abundance, and Mars wants to gift us courage and drive and assertiveness. And confidence, and Uranus wants to gift those light bulb moments, and genius ideas, creativity, and opportunities to be with like-minded people. So there could be, for example, some kind of surprising opportunity that presents itself by initiating contact, maybe with a group of friends, or or just through social networks. And
Mhm.
I think, no doubt, though, that this sweet opportunity, that whatever comes up, will be linked in some way to the 7.5 month journey of Mars through Gemini, and our relationship basically with curiosity and learning.
And Mars is still out of bounds here.
Okay. Wow. Right. So, and I was just about to say, our thought process has been on overdrive these past several months, and, it's going to be that much more important to look for the opportunity, so we don't miss it.
Mhm.
And we end the weekend on Sunday, March the 12th, which also happens to be daylight savings time. And with Jupiter and Chiron still merged together quite closely there, and bringing all of this great awareness and healing, to our lifetime scars. There's another thing that I've been thinking about that's quite interesting with Jupiter and Chiron. Like, how many of us have been like feeling some kind of dissatisfaction with our bodies? Aries represents our physical body, and it's really interesting to me that there's just been this huge boom in cosmetic procedures since Chiron came into Aries. And there's just, with so much attention on being beautiful and youthful in our society, then there's just a growing number of people feeling I'm not good enough, or I need to change this or that to be beautiful and accepted.
But this is where Aries can give them the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. I really believe that, Holly. Jupiter and Chiron together want to show us the truth,
Mhm.
that we're all beautiful just as we are. Jupiter wants us also to understand why maybe we feel ashamed and inadequate, and to realize, that each and every one of us was born with a very distinct and mission and life purpose, which is to express our unique way and our unique skills and talents to the world, and no money or success can heal that wound. It's only becoming who we're meant to be that's really going to heal that Chiron wound. And for me personally, this was such a huge lesson when I was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer, and I lost so much of what was, what I learned growing up makes a woman beautiful. And when I lost all my hair and my nails and my career and my income and just so much more, that's really when I learned that I am enough. And so I would say to anybody who's struggling with that and listening to this today, and if you're feeling those things coming up and you're thinking about that, just to remember that, you are enough, and, we all are. So on from March 12th to March 16th, I think that the aspect that we're probably going to feel the most is Mars and Gemini clashing with Neptune and Pisces in a 90-degree square angle. Yeah, like I don't know. I'm kind of sorry to say this, but I do think that this energy is quite heavy and stressful for some people. Squares are testing moments, and
Mhm.
the energy of two planets in a square can just feel so tense and urgent. And
But the positive side is Venus is sort of here between it.
yes, and Venus is gonna,
It's not midpoint, but it's kind of sitting
it's
here.
still there, it's still
Yeah.
close. Yeah.
We've got some semi-sextiles and stuff, but at least Venus is sort of doing a bit of an interjection throughout that square.
Yeah, and if you look at Neptune is sitting at Oh, sorry. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not a problem. And so, the thing is Mars is still in its shadow. Mars
Yeah.
had gone all the way to 28 degrees.
Yeah.
So Mars still continues to sit in her shadow, his shadow, somebody's shadow.
Yeah. I think with Neptune involved, basically whatever happens over these few days is, could possibly involve a crisis of faith.
Mhm.
Mars impulsively reacts. So something over the next, those several days might, have us wanting to say something from a place that might be a bit aggressive, but Neptune is really encouraging us to respond with compassion and forgiveness. And I think that whatever stress or pressure or conflict that comes up, it's all kind of leading to this big moment on March 16th when the Sun and Mercury are also now going to join in and mesh with Neptune all together at exactly 25 degrees Pisces. And Mars is just going to continue to apply its pressure from Gemini. And I think it's important to break this down a little bit. So basically, when the Sun comes together with any other planet at an exact degree, we call this a cazimi. And I'm not sure if we've talked about this in our last episode or not, but a cazimi feels a bit like kind of like a this. It's like it's the word cazimi comes from the Arabic term in the heart of the sun, and in this case both Neptune and Mercury are in the heart of the sun, but they're this gives them like this super power. And because the sun is also a planet of luck, there could be there's just a lot of Neptunian and mercurial magic in the air on this day.
And it could be a great day for dreaming.
Absolutely. I mean,
Neptune and Pisces, if you want to dream up a new play or dream up a new drama or dream up a new music composition with Neptune, cazimi, the sun, that's amazing.
It really is. It's really that triple conjunction, with the square for Mars is relatively a rare transit, and Mars really wants to make something happen. So, I think in its highest manifestation, this aspect is absolutely great for, pushing us to surrender and go with the flow and to trust our intuition and just put our ego aside and, tap into that creative energy that you were talking about, Holly, and just make something ethereal, I can't say that, ethereal happen. And it is absolutely amazing for artists and creative people. But then on the other hand, you also have the lower vibration of it, right? Which is delusional and confusing and deceptive and full of guilt and escapism. And honestly, Mars doesn't want to leave Gemini without being noticed here, right?
That's
Mars
right.
is combative and impulsive. And so I think we need to be very mindful of our thoughts and intentions and actions on this day. And, what I really do like is that Mars can push us to also overcome any kind of mental health challenges that we might be facing, like anxiety and depression and addiction, and these are all things that are on the rise, as Pluto's sitting there in the 29th degree and, and over these last few years with COVID and everything else that we've been through. And I just think this very special cazimi is just another indicator that it's time to heal, any shame and guilt that we might be holding on to, any, it's just the sun. Like I said, these planets are sitting right now in the warmth of the sun, and all of our unconscious thoughts are just being held there, and like I mentioned earlier, the most powerful antidote to shame is empathy, which is so Neptunian. I love acclaimed author and motivational speaker Brene Brown so much. And Brene Brown is, you know, widely known for her research on shame and vulnerability. And she says if you put shame in a Petri dish, it needs 3 things to grow exponentially: secrecy, silence, and judgment. And if you put the same amount of shame in a Petri dish and dose it with empathy, it can't survive.
Wow.
And I'll just leave you with this last quote from Abraham Hicks, which I think is another anecdote for whatever happens during these few days. In your mind's eye, lie down in your boat, feel it turn naturally downstream, and relax into the idea that this stream will carry you to your inevitable well-being and to a fulfillment of your desires. And on that note, I will happily pass it over to Susan to talk about the rest of this amazing day.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Can tell. Well, I've got probably the heavier part with Venus and Pluto are both at 29 degrees. Venus in Aries and Pluto in Capricorn, and so this is all about a power struggle, I think, between the two of them, and it's to do with power control in relationships. So, I mean, it could be business relationships. If you know you have your Aries maybe in the 2nd house, this could be around your work issues somehow. Maybe you're doing something that you really love to do, and your boss comes along and says, "Hey, you're not going to do that anymore. You're going to do something else," and you don't like it. But Venus in Aries, she's very bold and direct, and so she's still got some fight left in her before she moves off into Taurus. And so, you know, in personal relationships, the tension that could come from this power control issue could have to do with like jealousy or manipulation or possessiveness. And the cause of that behavior might be out of like fear or insecurity or something, or not feeling that you're valued or loved. And so with a strong relationship, I think you could probably withstand this intensity and maybe lead to transformation in some areas and growth in your relationship. But I feel that this is probably not a good energy for relationships where there's some kind of existing abuse. And so people just, you know, maybe have to kind of pussyfoot around that a little bit, if, you know, because it is so much about the control back and forth, you know, like someone just wants to be the boss. And, you know, Pluto is the one who is like the big boss. So it's hard to deal with. But by evening, Venus will have moved into Taurus. So, you know, this will ease that still existing tension with Pluto a little bit, because she becomes more tender and more compassionate and less combative. So Taurus is her home sign, and it's her comfort zone. She becomes in the comfort of her home with her belongings and all that she values. So it's sort of, I think, a sigh of relief to get away from that aggressiveness that Venus has when she's in Aries.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Sure.
Susan, only because throughout we've talked about squares. We've just talked about the squares. You were just talking about it, you know, Venus at 29 degrees squaring and so on. What I'd like to just interject here is that are squares difficult? Yes, absolutely. Squares are difficult. Are they impossible to overcome? No.
Oh, no, not at all. If we didn't have squares in our life, we would just be like, I don't know, a little slug sitting somewhere not doing anything. You need that for growth. Definitely, you need your squares for growth. And I think I was talking about that a lot today with Saturn on my own little astrology page, that, you know, if everything in life came easy, what, you know, there would be nothing. You would just kind of float along like on a, you know, on a stream somewhere, and you wouldn't be faced with any challenges or any responsibility or any of that. So anyway, I'll get back to Venus in Taurus. So she's more practical and patient there, and reliable, and the energy can also be very sensual and luxury loving, so that we don't have to feel guilty if we indulge ourselves in things that make us happy. We have a whole month to feel this warm, loving Venus energy, while the rest of the planets are kind of swirling wildly around us and going crazy. So I'll move from there on to March the 17th, which is a Friday. We have a stellium in Pisces. So a stellium is 3 or more planets that are working together. So we have the Sun, we have the Mercury, we have Neptune, and Saturn, all in Pisces. So Pisces is a water sign, which gives us very emotional vibe and encourages us to be compassionate. We have the planet of communication, which is Mercury, and the planet of our personality and our ego, which is the Sun. The planet that expresses our dreams and wishes, which is Neptune, and new to the show is Saturn, who is fresh off his 2.5 years in Aquarius. And so he's looking to create some new boundaries and structures in Pisces. And these planets working together can help us to express in a very creative and artistic manner. So the Sun and Mercury, that they allow us to give voice to what we want to do or what we desire. Maybe if you dream of acting or singing, and you talked about singing, Holly, or even writing a book, like this is great energy for doing anything like that. If digital media is where you want to be creative, you can go there. Anything involving creativity and communication that you dream of doing is possible. Then the Sun and Mercury are both involved in some tension there with Mars. They're all at 26 degrees. And Mars he doesn't really want to be involved in all that emotions and the dreaminess of Pisces energy. He's more concerned with the task at hand. So he can get a little bit bossy, I think. And the Sun and Mercury both want him to give some thought to how his actions affect others, and maybe encourage him to be a little bit more sensitive to others. So it reminds me of, the old adage of walking a mile in someone else's shoes. And it's why it's so important that we embrace the compassion that Pisces brings to us. The moon, where is the moon? She's up in Virgo, but she is moving into Aquarius for a few days, and this will bring, I think, a more intellectual feel to the weekend that is less emotional and less personal. We might want to just hang out with friends and,
Play their music.
Yeah, play music, toss ideas around, talk about, what we're going to do in the future, stuff like that. So on Saturday, March the 18th, both Mercury and the Sun are moving into a supporting sextile aspect with Pluto. And so Mercury and Pluto together add intensity and depth to our conversations. So if you have some serious business that you want to attend to, like now would be a great time for some deep study and maybe research into that to ensure that you're on the right track with what you're doing. The power of Pluto is very dominating and driven and very well known in the business world. So while having power is great, one has to be careful of not taking advantage of those people who are weaker. This has been the downfall of a number of powerful people as their abuse of others has come to light. I mean, we've seen that in the last few years. The Sun in sextile to Pluto will heighten Pluto's transforming energy and maybe make us more driven and keen to achieve our goals. It can bring significant growth and strength to our ability to reform or transform parts of our life. Pluto is an interpersonal or generational planet. So our role within social groups and families and clubs or in the workplace may take on more importance or even a leadership role. So that's pretty much all I had to say about that, I think. I'll move on to Sunday, which is March the 19th. And Mercury has now entered into Aries. So after a brief 2 weeks in Pisces, I mean, Mercury just left into Aries, where his influence will be felt by us in how we communicate. We'll be a lot more straightforward and to the point, and we'll definitely be less emotional than what we were in Pisces that over the last few weeks. We'll be able to speak more clearly and concisely, and we'll be able to give honest feedback to people. With Mercury in Aries, we'll be able to get others to see our point of view, and we will also be quick to explain exactly what we mean. So we do have to be cautious about jumping to conclusions without having all our facts or being too impulsive, because those, are very much Mercury traits.
And Mars is still in its shadow.
And Mars is still in his shadow. And Mars, it doesn't like being in Gemini at all, because it's too scattery for him. But if you're working on a project, you might want to, and you want to finish it off quickly to give it to your boss, or if it's a personal project, it's a good idea to check it twice to make sure that it's really what you want to say and what you want to do. Because with Mercury being the ruler of Gemini, it never hurts to look at things twice. And I can't tell you, in the last couple months, everything I do, it's like I seem like I have to go back and do it again, or look at it again, or it's just continuous.
That's Mars and Gemini.
Oh, it's just amazes me how many times where you go to do something and then you go back and do it again. It's just, crazy. Monday, March the 20th, the sun is ending up his time in Pisces, and by evening we'll have moved into Aries. So the sun in Aries energy has us being very action oriented. We're ready to be physical after a month of just being in our heads the whole time and dreamy and emotional. Moving from that water element sign into a fire sign it's a really big shift for any planet, and especially for the sun. This sun movement also marks the spring equinox. So we can say, finally, goodbye to winter and hello, spring. So now, look at all the planets that we have in Aries. Now we have the stellium in Aries. So we're ready to be bold and adventurous and spontaneous. And like Mercury, who got there first, I think, no, he didn't get there first, but we can be very direct and straightforward in our actions. Sun in Aries is all about living in the moment and enjoying life. So with the 3 planets plus Chiron, creating that stellium, Aries season is going to be very energizing, with the sun encouraging us to be bold and daring. Mercury is giving strength to our communication skills, and Jupiter is creating big possibilities and opportunities for us. I mean, he's been there for a while. Our vitality increases in Aries, and we become more optimistic and ready to tackle all that spring brings to us. We can be, planting our gardens and planting our seeds, as Holly said, and doing yard work or spring cleaning, outdoor activities, or, planning our summer vacation or our weekend road trips. I mean, it's just such a refreshing energy, especially after the long winter. Oh, I just have to plug in here for a minute. So then we move on to Tuesday, March the 21st. So this is following right behind the sun's ingress into Aries. We have the moon joining the sun for our new moon in Aries. And the sign of Aries is now loaded with planets. I think there's 5 of them there. And so this puts a huge focus on ourselves and our ego. And it's an opportunity for us, the new moon, to create a fresh start. It's time to think about what we want to explore during this moon cycle, and what we want to develop, and what we want to visualize our intentions and set our intentions on. There's no better time for us to take all those dreams that we might have had in Pisces and put them into motion. Aries is all about taking risks and jumping into action, and to simply be free without worrying about whether something is going to work out or not. I mean, Aries, it's not really focused a lot on the end game. Aries is all about beginnings and getting started, and it if it doesn't work out, the fun was in doing it and being willing to try it another way. So action is very swift in Aries. It's a great time for personal challenges, not so great for teamwork because Aries is very eye focused. So some of the words that come to mind with the new moon in Aries are spontaneous, self-confident, direct, reckless, impatient, and pioneering. So we have all that energy, but we should also be sure to wait for the crescent moon, just that little bit of light from the moon before we start taking action, because the dark of the moon is really the time just for planning. Also on the 21st, we have Venus joining up with the North Node, and the North Node in Taurus is giving us the opportunity to discover our own true values and our self-worth. And we have to learn to trust ourselves and our abilities. Venus is at home in Taurus, and so she knows exactly what she loves and values. And she is there to help North Node and help us to understand our true potential, and also to create harmony around us and within us. And actually, if we create the harmony and the good energy within us, it's only going to come out for everybody else to see and enjoy. And finally, we have Mars in Gemini. He is in a trine aspect to Pluto in Aquarius. And so both of them are, they're getting ready to move on to other signs. Mars trine Pluto will give us a jolt of goal-oriented energy to activate our ideas and our ambitions. We can be assertive and direct in pursuing our ideas and our goals. And let me see, in our work lives, our leadership skills could be highlighted, and we might even be asked to take on a position with more power and be able to handle more challenges with confidence. It's a great time to stand up and be noticed in your career and your work life. If you're interested in delving into your own psyche, it is also a positive energy for spiritual healing and for working on transformation in any area in our personal lives that might need some attention. Mars also rules our sexual energy. And so we may be experiencing increased passion in those areas of our lives. And others can be drawn to that powerful energy that we're given off. So we have that to work with. On Wednesday, the 22nd, the moon is in Aries for a few days. And today she meets up with Chiron. So moon in Aries, I don't think is overly emotional, but it certainly gives us a focus on ourselves and on our own chironic healing, with being less emotional about it and maybe more direct if there's a particular area of something that we're trying to heal. It's a good time where we could maybe go and talk to somebody else about it and ask what they think about it, because the moon in Aries will give us courage and bravery, and it will encourage us to stick up for ourselves. And emotionally, it can be a bit fiery and hot-tempered rather than, weepy and crying. And so if others are not listening to us or doing what we want, we just have to be a little careful about not blowing up at them or saying the wrong thing. And that, I think, wraps it up for my week. And I'd like to hand it off to Holly for the rest of the month. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you to all of you guys. One of the big things, and I'm going to come back to this Mars here, Mars is going to just come out of his shadow, which means that right on up to this point in time, we have all been reviewing August, September of last year, January, December last year. And finally, in the next couple of days, are we going to get Mars out of its shadow? Which means that a lot of things that we'd been working on, thinking about, trying to work our way through since last summer of 2022, August, September, should finally now, most of us should probably be looking and going, oh my world, I finally have the answer. Now, I've done it this way, I've done it that way, Gemini. This way, that way. This way, that way. I've tried it this way, I've tried it that way. And here it was right in front of me all the way along, you know? And so Mars coming out of its shadow will help you to be able to see that. All right. Then on the 23rd, you know, one of the other things that we're dealing with and working our way through, the nodal axis. The nodal axis is going to come out of Taurus when we get it further along into the summer. Why do I bring that up now? Well, I bring that up now because life never just happens just right now. Life happens through a series of steps. And as those steps are working their way through, it then leads us to the next step. Number one. Number two, we are always repeating cycles. And we're repeating, you know, I think it was Tanya that talked about Saturn going into Pisces and the cycle that brought forth. Well, we were in this cycle 19 years ago. So if you actually go back to 19 years ago, some of the things that you were thinking of that brought in security, sometimes that's financial, sometimes that's love, sometimes that means a roof over my head, sometimes that means relationships. So we are always in that process of the review. When we get to the 25th, let me come back for one moment. So on the 23rd, we have Pluto. And yes, Pluto really is a planet. We have Pluto sitting at 29 degrees Capricorn. Da-da-da-da. On the 24th, Pluto will have moved into the sign of Aquarius, 0 degrees Aquarius. Now, it's not going to get any further along the way. In 2023, it's not going to come off of that 0 degrees Aquarius. This is why I called it seeding. Pluto going in here is simply going to set down little seeds, because what we're going to see with Pluto gone into Aquarius, Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn. Pluto will go back into Aquarius in 2024. Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn. It's really going to take us to 2025 for Pluto to get firmly planted into Aquarius to actually say, boom, I have arrived. Now, Pluto was in Aquarius 246 years ago. Pluto was there in 1776. And that was the beginning of the American Revolution. When Pluto changes signs, as it did in 2008, it went into the sign of Capricorn. Now it's going to transition into the sign of Aquarius. Pluto is about transformation. Pluto makes the world change at large. And this is what makes us all say we're coming into the time of the Renaissance. Are we going to go to sleep, wake up, and boom, we've arrived? No, that's not how it's going to happen. Seed it first. Check it out. Pluto is going to stay in Aquarius in May of this year, 2023. Pluto will start to retrograde. You can mark your calendars from the 24th of March right on up until the 1st of May. You'll get to see a little bit of the seeding. As we are talking right now, there's not one country in the world that has complete peace. Everything is all in a kerfuffle. Nothing is straightforward. Well, who do you think is doing that? That's Pluto. Pluto's saying, I got to ruffle everything up. I gotta dig up here. I gotta make some plans there. I gotta ruffle over here. I gotta change that over there. When we want to go out and dig a garden, do we ever just lay the seeds on top? Nope. We generally have to dig down. Throw that over there, toss out some weeds there, change around here. That, my friends, is exactly what's happening on the world stage right now. Pluto's changing it here, changing it there, a little bit of unrest here, set up a whole lot of unrest here. Got to get everybody in on this whole entire story in order to make this happen. And that's Pluto entering Aquarius. Aquarius is also about giving the freedom. If you know an Aquarian, you know they love their freedom. Giving the freedom back to the general mankind. Pluto in Aquarius, whether it's fortunately or unfortunately, is about tearing down the government. It's about tearing down authority. It's about taking away people who think they run the show. Am I concerned about that? I am a little. And the reason I am is because Saturn in Pisces is going to have, are you in control? Well, I'm not in control. Are you in control? I'm not in control. Are you in control? No, I don't think so. And Pluto is taking down the authority. So who's in control? Nobody. So it'll be interesting times on these seedings. Will we actually 100% understand the full extent of Pluto in Aquarius? We will understand that, I think, in 2025, when Pluto goes in and sets. When you think about, from the Canadian perspective, when you think about the Freedom Convoy that happened, that's Pluto in Aquarius. I'm not listening to what you have to say. I don't care what your authority says. You might tell me that's what I'm doing. I'm not. That's Pluto in Aquarius. We always get a little bit of a preview as it comes down the pipeline. And that sun sign in Aries is creating a sextile. We like sextiles. Creating a sextile, saying, I can be forward. I can be the leader. You don't have to be the leader. Just because you're in the power, that don't matter. That don't matter at all. I can be the leader. So it's going to be interesting times to actually see this all come into power. And on that particular day, the 24th, the moon and Venus is lined up. Watch the banking industry. See what choices will come forward connected around the banking industry. Then we come to the 26th, and Mars gets out of Gemini. Thank goodness is our thoughts on that. Now, does Mars like being in Cancer? No, Mars hates being in Cancer. In astrology lingo, we say Mars is in her fall, which she loses power. And part of that, if you think about, Mars is kind of Cancer is sort of like that motherhood, mothership, mothering, mother connection. So Mars is going to go into Cancer. It's just come out of Gemini, where it's a mutable sign, and just going to let Mars take over and do what it needs to do, because that's what we need to do, is to be pleasant and have people like us. And Mars is going to go into Cancer, and Cancer is going to go, sit down, Mars. You are no longer in control. I now run the ship. So you're going to find, a bit of that anger issue will really step back from there. And as I say, trust me, we'll be happy Mars is out of Cancer. It's out of Gemini, sorry. When we get to the 28th, that might give us a little bit of a weepy day. Mars is going to be sucking up to the moon going, I just lost my power. Nobody let me have my power. And Saturn is saying, come on over here, look. Come on over here, Mars. Let's just sit down and write a song. Let's just sit down and be creative. So are you as an individual going to find yourself being really emotional that day? Yep, you are. The way around it, haul out your paint, haul out your guitar, haul out anything from a creative perspective. Now, we're not going to take any victim-mindedness, oh, poor me, life's bad, I lost my... No, we're going to take the power and we're going to take the control of it by using Saturn in Pisces to pull in that creativeness. Fantastic day for writing. We've got Mercury and Jupiter sort of sitting together in that exact same chair, both of them at 18 degrees in Aries, saying, I can write a letter about the future. I can write a letter to my futuristic self. What a great idea. Write a letter to your futuristic self for when Pluto becomes entrenched in 2025. What do you want to tell your future self to do and be ready to do? Pisces is also going to force the uniqueness. Pluto in Capricorn has really had us sort of, I'm a bit psychic. Not in Aquarius. Aquarius is about being different. Aquarius don't want to be like anyone else. Pluto in Aquarius says, you're different, stand up and be different. Allow yourself to be seen. Allow yourself to show that you're different. You're psychic, then say it. Stop being afraid. And that's going to be a big thing. Plus, with Saturn going into Pisces, if you owned a deck of tarot cards or angel cards or oracle cards, maybe you did as a teenager, maybe you did a few years ago, you're going to find yourself being very drawn to pull that out. That is the absolute energy of the day. We finish off the actual month itself with lots going on. We still have that full energy of the Aries. You can see when we first started with Tracy, we had planets sort of conjoined in one area of the chart. We've got a bit more of a opening here. Mars has moved, Pluto's in Aquarius. We've got a lot of energy. We've got Venus now lined up with Uranus. Allow yourself, because the people who stop us the most is really ourselves. Allow yourself. Take out a piece of paper on that day, and I want you to allow yourself to say, if money didn't matter, if it didn't matter that I made 80, 90, 180, 500,000 a year, if that didn't matter, what would I do? Venus and Uranus, call in Uranus, sit there and say, okay, Uranus, you and I are going to have a little bit of a chat today. And you're just going to bring on these out of alignment thoughts. Uranus is the planet of unexpected events, and I'm going to give you the permission to actually do that, to show you exactly something that I would love to do, that I never did before because, oh my God, I couldn't make any money at that, was my thought process. That's not what this example is about. This example is about if the amount of money I made didn't matter, what would I do? And that is a huge invitation here with Venus and Uranus. And I think I'm going to leave the actual finishing off of the month just with that mindset. Because by the time we get to the end of March, there's a lot that have changed. And one of the big things that has changed is us as individuals. You cannot have this planetary alignment shifting and changing up there and it not affecting you. There's no way. Anybody? I'm going to point to Tracy since you were the first to start. Tracy, any final words you would like to share?
Well, this is such an exciting month for astrologers, especially having the foresight and seeing all these things take place. And for the individual, I'm like, let's just jump to it. Let's just get going. And I understand like the process of getting there. You know, we go through the fog, we go through the indecision, we go through the definite decisions, we go through, you know, what's going to happen. It is such a perfect system. You know, astrology is such a perfect system that puts us in, you know, the perfect flow for our own birth chart that, I don't know, I'm really looking forward to this month, just experiencing all of the changes, even though I really want to get to the end of it and see what, you know, and look back and see what happens. But it's an incredible time to be an astrologer. It's an incredible time to be alive right now.
And just think, we chose to be alive right now. Tanya, any final words?
Yeah, I mean, it really is an incredible time to be alive. And I think, you know, I'm fascinated to experience what Pluto and Aquarius will feel like, even if it's just seeding, you know. For me personally, Pluto's been in my 8th house of trauma, and I've had 3 near-life death experiences and just lost so much and undergone so much, but I don't even really feel like I'm the same person that I was 15 years ago. But it's going to be trining my Gemini placements, you know, so I'm hoping that that's going to feel like a bit of a relief. And for all the other Geminis that are out there that have been experiencing, you know, Pluto through their 8th house, you know, we're almost there. We're almost
That's right.
there.
Exactly. Yeah. Susan, any final words?
I love Aquarius energy, so I know it's going to take a while for Pluto to get going in there. I think it's going to be a lot about putting the power back into the people, with the people, and you know, going away with a lot of the big top-heavy hierarchies of different things. I mean, here it'd be really interesting to see, nice to see something happen to the power company, but you know, we won't go down that road. And so much creativity, and you know, and the whole Saturn in Pisces, it's people are stepping away from, you know, organized religion, and they're getting into a whole different type of spirituality. You know, you have, you know, all of the, you know, the work that we do with astrology, but you have all of the, you know, the energy healers and the mediums and the psychics and the I mean, all of that is just, I think, exploding outward. And, you know, where people are recognizing it more. You know, it was the scientists that shut astrology down years ago, even, you know, because they were originally part and parcel, and it got shut down. And I just think it's so wonderful that it's becoming more mainstream, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And I'm so looking forward to everything. This is all kind of happening in my 10th, 11, you know, houses to do with, you know, what I want to do. And this is what I want to do. So I'm very happy doing it. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's a joy.
It is. It is. And so I want to say thank you very much to everyone who is listening. Hit the subscribe button down below, and join us, because we're here every month. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the ride. It's all for your empowerment. We'll see you in April.